How I got into logistics was that I was a very disruptive child at school, and I was actually expelled from school at the age of 15. So I was one of these kids who was always in trouble, never got their homework done, and I felt, looking back on it, I feel so sorry for my parents. They sent me to quite an expensive private school. You'll never become anything. I was always at the back of the class and not getting any attention from school. And to be honest, when they decided that school wasn't the right place for me, I felt a huge sense of relief. My parents didn't, of course, but then it was a question of, well, what do I do with my life? And suddenly I found myself in an environment with some great mentors, great leadership, great encouragement, a great community around me. And I actually found that I wasn't that dumb, and I was actually quite good at some stuff.
Do you know that you can be a reason for changing people's life from this channel? Probably you will ask me how. I will tell you how. My name is Ahmed Khaled, and I am the host of this Unleash podcast. We speak mainly around personal development and entrepreneurship. Our mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential. And this is by interviewing CEOs, entrepreneurs, and coaches physically in Dubai to extract their wisdom and change your life. Now, can I ask you to do me two favors? Firstly, can you hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel to grow more than you expect. Secondly, can I ask you also to refer this channel to 3 of your friends who can benefit from the values of this channel, and you will be the reason of changing their life. Now, you can enjoy the episode. I see the inspiration that you're doing across all platforms, YouTube and LinkedIn. But I believe in something, that behind each step that we're doing in life, there is a reason. And I'm so curious, and I believe also our audience is so curious, what were the biggest reason for you to step into the logistics field?
Wow, that could be a very deep and very long question. The answer might surprise you. How I got into logistics was that I was a very disruptive child at school, and I was actually expelled from school at the age of 15. So I was one of these kids who was always in trouble, never got their homework done, and I felt, looking back on it, I feel so sorry for my parents. They sent me to quite an expensive private school, only to have the headmaster say, "We no longer require your son here." And I was never going to amount to anything at school. I mean, I was one of those kids at school who was constantly told, "You're stupid. You'll never become anything." I was always at the back of the class and not getting any attention from school. And to be honest, when they decided that school wasn't the right place for me, I felt a huge sense of relief. My parents didn't, of course, but then it was a question of, well, what do I do with my life? And to be honest, I'd always had a bit of a passion for things military. And at that time, you could actually join the army at the age of 15. And so that was just a natural thing for me to do. And I ended up in logistics in the army.
After, when you were 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years old. I basically went to an army college for 2.5 years to study logistics and a few other things. And to be honest, that was a complete turnaround, because up until that time, I was a kid that was going nowhere, and who had been branded as a kid who was going to go nowhere. And suddenly I found myself in an environment with some great mentors, great leadership, great encouragement, a great community around me. And I actually found that I wasn't that dumb, and I was actually quite good at some stuff. And it was a tremendous thing, at that age, to go through that. And suddenly people saying, "You're actually quite good at this." And that encouragement just kept on and on and on. And, it got to the point where I slowly came out of my shell, I guess, with people actually saying, "Hang on, what's going on here? You're coming, top of the exam and top of the class." And it got to one point where I think I was probably 19 or 20. And my commanding officer in the army at the time said, "You're coasting, O'Byrne. You're far more capable than this. I'm actually going to suggest that you undertake officer training." And that was just, totally out of left field for me. It's, having gone through this childhood of really being a no-hoper, and then somebody seeing the potential and giving me the support to do that. And sure, I went through all the officer training in the army and started to have a great time. The Army put me through a master's degree in logistics. So again, there's that logistics connection. And I wouldn't be here, where I am now, had it not been for that headmaster at the age of 15 throwing me out.
So adversity, you believe that adversity can shape our future, right?
Oh, look, I think it's how you react to adversity. And maybe this is something that you learn later in life, that things happen for a reason. And sometimes things are not meant to be, and maybe you haven't sort of met the right person who's going to help you in life yet. And I think that was certainly the case for me. That academic environment was never going to work for me. I just wasn't one of those kids who was academically minded, but I was far more practical minded. I found that, I actually had some leadership skills that could be developed, and I found my niche doing something totally different.
So do you believe that formal education can just shape our future, or what do you think about this?
Look, I know there's a school of thought where a lot of people will say you don't need university degrees. I've been to the University of Life, and you can learn everything as you go. I don't fully agree with that. I think it's a balance. I think formal education is really important. There are certain skills in business and in life that need to be formal, done through formal education. But I think our success, if we're talking from an entrepreneurial perspective, our success very often doesn't come from that formal education. That comes from our character, the heart, and it's that informal learning that we gain along the way, which is very often through the people that we're working with, the people who inspire us. And I think that's the thing that makes the difference.
And what I got to know from you, that you came into the logistics field, and this is where you found your passion, right?
Yeah.
But I'm so curious also to understand how this logistics just field in Army connected with Logistics Bureau, and how did you found this? I know that you were in UK, and then you relocated to Australia. What was the story behind just getting into that logistics bureau? I do believe that you have great story in that.
It's funny how things happen in life. We can map out our careers or our life journey, but it invariably doesn't happen like that. There was actually a period when I was in the Army where, I forget the exact year, but the Berlin Wall came down. Germany was reunited, and the British Army was downsizing, and I was given the opportunity to basically take early retirement for a hefty sum. They needed people to resign, and I put my hand up for that and decided to move to Australia. And it's funny, we were talking earlier over a meal about the importance of networking and not using your network. I don't think that's the right term, but utilizing those people that and reaching out for support and help, because people genuinely do like to help others in their careers. And I can remember going to a conference in Birmingham in the UK, of all places, and talking to a company that was selling software, logistics software. And I mentioned, I'm going to Australia. And this guy said, I know a consulting firm in Australia. We partner with them. I can give you an introduction. And when I arrived in Australia, I met with that consulting firm. And 2 weeks later, I was working with them. So if you ever want, a tip on does networking actually work? Yeah, it really does.
It's in supply chain or logistics? In
logistics. So I joined a logistics consulting firm.
It's a law of attraction, I do believe.
Yeah. So but what are the chances? I just happened to talk to someone at a conference who knew someone who was looking for
this is meaningful networking, I believe. Yeah. So in such case, you joined this company, right?
Yeah.
How long did you stay, and what was the trigger that you asked yourself, tell yourself, no, I want to pursue my entrepreneurial journey and I take a chance on myself?
So I was there for 2 or 3 years, and loved it. And I loved the company. I loved the guy that I was working for. He was a terrific character. And I really learnt the craft of being a good management consultant. But I just wanted to do it my way. And I felt that I was ready to work for myself, not for someone else. And it was a huge step. The family initially, when I moved to Australia, thought I was nuts giving up, this fantastic career in the Army with, the great pension. And you're going to go to Australia and without a job. And then I managed to find a great job in Australia, and then sort of within 2 or 3 years said, no, I'm actually going to resign and start my own business. You know, this guy really has gone nuts, because no one in our families had ever done anything like that. But I just wanted to have the opportunity to craft my own business and provide services in the way that I wanted to do it. And yeah, the rest is history.
Was it enough, you think, that 3 years working in management consultancy, was it enough experience just to pursue? Because I know it's not easy. 3 years and moving into that, I think that there is a motive behind that, right?
Oh, look, I think it was enough to really learn the craft. And I was very lucky that the owner of the business kind of took me under his wing and was an excellent consultant. And I learned from the best, and I really felt quite bad about leaving, to be honest. But I felt I just needed to make that break. And if I wasn't going to make that break at that age, I think I was 40, then I never would. So I just, and family were very supportive, and I just wanted to see whether I could do it or not.